Hi, Dr. Heather here from Wellspring Chiropractic Lifestyle Center. Today we're talking about low back pain and specifically what happens to the discs. If you've heard about having a blown disc or a herniated or a bulging disc, I want to show you what happens with that. So in your low back, here are the vertebrae, and we have them stacked on top of each other, and in between is the disc, and the disc is the spacer which makes sure that this hole is the right size for the nerve that comes out. So the brain is sending the messages down the spinal cord out through the nerves to go to every part of your body. As long as the messages get from the brain to the cells and back again, you get to be healthy. But if anything puts pressure on those nerves, then we'll start to have a loss of function. And if there's pain related to it, you may feel pain in the low back. We also know that the disc, as the spacer, if it gets compromised, then we're going to start to have problems as well. So if you have a misalignment of the vertebrae, if you've jarred your spine or you've lifted something improperly, or you just have bad habits, poor posture, you're sitting a lot, those are some of the things that can cause these problems. And if the vertebrae misalign, then it's going to start to irritate the nerve. When it irritates the nerve, your smart body is going to take the muscles that are all around this joint and it's going to spasm those muscles to strap that joint down. Because the more movement that happens when there's inflammation and irritation, then the more it's going to irritate that nerve and start to tear up that nerve. So your smart body will muscle spasm, and when it does that, it locks the joint down to protect you, but it also, that loss of movement is going to start to affect the disc. Now the disc doesn't have a very good blood supply, and so the only way to get nutrients in and get toxins out is kind of like the idea of a sponge. If you squeeze a sponge, the water comes out, and when you release that, water gets sucked back in. The disc is the same way. So movement of the spine is actually how we keep the disc healthy. Well, if you have a misalignment, also known as a subluxation, and the muscle has strapped that down to protect and prevent more irritation from the nerve, you're going to see a compromise in the disc over time. And when that gets compromised over time, the toxins don't come out and the nutrients don't go in. That's called a loss of imbibition. And that means that that disc is going to start to break down. So what that looks like is over time, the disc may get compressed and bulge out. That bulging out could be putting pressure on the nerves that are exiting. You can see if the disc is inflamed, what that might look like. And then over time, it could lead to a wear and tear and a breaking down of the integrity of the fibers that hold this jelly-like substance in the middle of the disc. And that starts to ooze out, herniates out, bulges out, and puts even more pressure on the nerve. And then over time, that disc could actually just get very dried out. Now, the other thing that you may be noticing with these vertebrae, I'm going to back up a little bit, is that over time, the smoothness of the bones can start to deteriorate as well. So you can get degenerative change in the bones. We call that osteophytic spurring. And when the bone grows bone spurs, then that can start to also interfere with the nerve function. So we can see how these bony growths are starting to build and how they can start to put pressure as well. And over time, that can even lead to a fusion of the vertebrae, where these bones are now no longer moving because they've actually fused. The key thing about all this is it's really something that should have been prevented. Anybody that was watching someone's spine closely would have seen, if they knew what to do, that over time, if we stop it here and we realign things and get it back to the healthy normal, then that degenerative process never needs to happen. It's kind of like the idea of if the tires in your car are out of alignment, over time, what's going to happen to those tires? They're going to wear out, and they're going to wear out faster and asymmetrically. And so if you have a healthy spine, it should last you your whole life. But if you have misalignments, then that's going to start to lead to degenerative change and deterioration, and something that could have been preventable. So if you do have low back pain, that's going to be a signal that there may be something more going on, and it would be important for you to get that checked out and not just try to tolerate it or ignore it, or worse, try to mask it or use medications to stop the muscle spasms so you feel better, but meanwhile you could be actually irritating the nerves more and more. So I hope that you found this helpful. If you're curious about whether you have any degenerative change that has begun in your spine and what you could do to prevent it from happening or to recover as much function as possible, then please click the link below, because we do have a new patient special that you may be interested in. So you just click the link below, and I look forward to meeting you.